What up, friends? This could be an interesting video if you're in any way wanting to learn about setup. I've got a friend called Marco, such a lovely guy. Hey Marco. And it's his birthday this Saturday. And what I thought is I'd give him this guitar. So this is a walnut prototype ML1. It's got a little bit of battle scarage. You know, I've used it. It's missing the back plate. It's got some marks. Obviously, we wrote prototype on it and everything. But I think it's a really cool guitar that Marco will love. And I thought it's also a good opportunity to set it up, teach you a little bit about setup. And through the process of this video, we'll end up with a guitar that I can give my friend Marco for his birthday. I mean, really, it needs a wipe down. I'm going to get a cloth in a minute and do some of that. But first, I'm just going to remove the strings. Now, you might be surprised to know that I don't use a string winder because in the many years of having dealt with strings on guitars, you often just don't have a string winder. And the last thing you want is to get caught without a string winder at a gig and not be able to do it by hand. If you'd like, you can time me. Always ping it before you swing it, because you never know when you might end up going the wrong way. Good. Okay, done. All off. Obviously, don't forget to recycle your strings if you can. Now, here's a cool thing. I've got a string stuck. It won't go through. And what you can do is you can take one of your slightly thicker strings and use it as a poker. And I get this with, say, I've literally just pushed it through. The ball was in there for a long ass time. So the next thing that's important to do is just throw away the strings now. Don't wait, because then you forget and then one of your kids ends up with a piece of metal in their foot. Quick wipe down. Obviously try not to get the electronics too much. I forgot that I owned this guitar. It was one of those where I opened the box and went, oh yeah, totally forgot we even made it. That's more like it. So next, what I'll tend to do is oil the fretboard. It looks pretty good as it is. There's zero fret sprout, despite the fact that it's just been stuck in a box in England for about 10 years, and then in Malta, where it's really hot. So I'm quite surprised. I really thought that would have sprouted a touch. It's quite normal when you shift climates dramatically. Put the oil on the tissue, not on the neck. Once you've got it in there, let it soak for a little bit. This looks sick. Marco and I share an absolute dedication and love to food. We are super bad influence on each other. Before I can do any of the setup, I need to string it because you can't really gauge the action, the intonation, neck relief until you have, I mean you can, but you need strings on it really at first. So of course, I'm gonna whack a set of paradigms on it. And to be honest, I'm not really sure what Marco's using. I know he's a massive Alice in Chains fan and listens to all sorts of dirty, dark stuff. So probably he wants thicker strings, but this is a safe bet just for a standard basic setup and see where that takes us. And if we need to tweak it for 11s or something like that, it's a fairly easy move from 10s to something like 11s. Now the way I string a guitar, put it through, give it a little tug at the bottom to make sure it's all the way through the bridge, and then just bring it up so you can see. I do this. You see this? This is a depth gauge. So hold the string, and then my middle finger touches where the 12th fret is. So too high, when it touches, I'm fine. At that point, I bend the string around the post, and now if I wind it on, it'll have the perfect amount of string relief. You don't want too few wraps because it won't adhere to the post. And I'm pushing it down so that the additional winds end up exactly where I want them, under the string that's winding around the post. Give it a pull. Just gonna, like a bow and arrow, all up and down here. I'm being really firm-handed with it because it doesn't have a clue what it's in for when Marco gets hold of it. And that's perfect. It's like 1.5 wraps. I wouldn't want more and I wouldn't want less. And then if you're friendly, use the side of the pliers to just bend back that end cut of the string so that it's not sticking out at a sharp right angle from the post. And this means it's much harder for somebody to cut themselves on the end of the string, something I learned by teaching lots of kids guitar when I was a guitar teacher. So little tug at the bridge, depth gauge, and then I just wind it on. See how fast it is for me to wind on. That is done. Only problem with these Goto tuners in this sort of machine black color is that I just can't see them. I have such bad eyesight, even with my glasses on. I can't see the black hole on a black post, so I have to just feel where everything is. When it comes to the 3 treble strings, you need a little bit more wind because it will not grip the tuning peg quite as hard. So I always give it an extra half a wind just to prevent the annoying slippage that will occur otherwise. I do this action, I do pull and push. So the thumb is pushing, the first finger is pulling. So it's super quick. You don't need a winder. And for the last string, I always leave an extra wind just because it's so skinny, so slippery, it kind of needs that extra grip. Let's see how fast I can do this. String winder 4000, batteries not included, colors may differ from packaging shown. Done. There's the guitar, nicely strung, and I can see already here that we have a little bit of a forward bow on the neck. It needs to be slightly straighter so that the strings, the neck's basically doing this a little bit, and I want to straighten it out so that the strings are in the correct position. It's affording it quite a high action. One for the neck, just here, the little fairy door, and then one for the individual saddles of the Wilkinson tremolo, which is a superior tremolo. And I want to give this less bow, less concavity. So pop it in here, and I want to turn it clockwise from where I'm looking down, clockwise. I can already feel that the truss was sort of free floating, so it just needs like half a turn till it grips, and then a little bit of bite, and that probably is enough. And what I'll do to measure that, using the thumb on my right hand, I'll just touch any of the, well, the D or the, normally the G string, D or G string, to the last fret. I'll fret down at the first fret, and my finger will dab around the 12th fret, and I'm looking for about a millimeter. For me personally, I like that. Some people would want it to be completely flat. I don't like that. I want a bit more relief personally, but some people want just like hardly any. They want a completely flat neck. I wonder if I can show you this from this kind of angle. So here, whoops, that's difficult. And I'm just dabbing it. You can see it just touches with about a millimeter of play. So that's a lot better in the neck angle. By the way, you can kind of look down the neck. A lot of people do this, but I often find it's a bit misleading. Sometimes the visual doesn't really give you an accurate measurement, whereas using the string itself as a straight iron is a much better indicator of whether or not you've got a good string. And although I'm checking my relief at the 12th fret, there are other ways of doing it. Sometimes I'll fret down at the 12th and the 1st, and then I'll dab in the center there to find the relief, because the truss does the majority of its work kind of around here. So it takes a bit of experience. Anyway, I'll tune it now, and then I'll check the action. And what I do for somebody else is I bend the string a tone, sometimes a tone and a half, at the 15th fret. And what I want is for it to not fret out. So if it frets out, I give it more action until it doesn't fret out, and then I deem that the lowest possible action on that guitar. I want to be able to bend a tone, tone and a half around the 15th fret. So what I'll do is I'll drop it down on every string and then do the bend test. If it frets out, it's no good, has to come up. Now you hear that? It's fretted out. So I've pulled it down too far. I'm gonna do half a turn on each of these little saddle adjustments until it stops the fret out, and then we'll know. So that's the lowest that string will go. And actually it's kind of, feels good. It's quite low. So I do that to all of the strings. That one can even go lower if it wants to. So this is quite surprising. This one is super low, won't fret out, but I don't really want it to go any lower because it feels like it's gonna be too low otherwise. I should also say that this bridge, I've hardtailed it. I don't like floating bridges. I don't know whether Marco's a floating bridge guy. All I've done is I've screwed it in super tight. 3 springs, I could add more if I wanted to, and I've screwed this down so it's decked and it won't go anywhere. For me, that's a bit low, but I like quite a high action. I think it's important when you're setting up a guitar for other people to consider what the average person wants. They want easy to play, reasonably low action, little tiny bit of relief, and then they can tweak it from there to suit themselves. All plays really nicely. The last thing I would do is adjust the pickup height. You can see that I completely mash my middle pickup down, and that's because I hybrid pick. And I don't like the pickup in the way of my fingers. But of course, not everyone does that. Marco definitely doesn't hybrid pick. So he would probably want more output from this pickup. So I'm going to wind it up slightly and then find a case. Wow, this is a rigid set of screws. I thought for a minute I'd need to do one of those internet hacks with a packet of noodles or something and drill a hole through it and then create a new screw or something. That's better. It's almost restored to its former glory if it wasn't for the little ding here. I found a case for an old ML1 Pro, but this fits perfectly. Yeah, bro. That looks good. Check this out. That looks nice. So the last thing is, I always tell people to do a little bit of upgrading on guitars if they can, just to kind of make it your own. These are very old pickups, and I think Marco would prefer that. So I'm going to stick this Screamin' Demon in here, and that's Marco's guitar. There you go. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Hope this was in some way helpful. Chappers out.